and we're going for that three-peat, so don't forget it, don't get it twisted. We're doing it. 3 times, first time in NFL history, we doing it. Love y'all.
Mahomes and the Chiefs, with 2 consecutive wins coming in, trying for a taste of NFL history, will be denied. Complete domination in Super Bowl 59.
On February 9th, 2025, the Chiefs made history, just not the kind they wanted. They became the first team since the creation of the Super Bowl to play in 3 straight, win the first 2, but lose the 3rd. The first three-peat attempt in Super Bowl history. Super Bowl history, not NFL history. To find another example of what the Chiefs did, we have to go back to the Lions of 1954, or even further, the Bears of 1942. All 3 teams were 1 game away from a three-peat, meaning the only team to win 3 straight NFL championship games is Lombardi's Packers in the mid-60s, including those first 2 Super Bowls before they were even called Super Bowls. But players are better athletes now. Coaches are better coaches. Offenses and defenses are way more creative. Technology sent analytics to the moon. Medical advancements are light years ahead, and more people than ever are playing football now. Yet, it's been 58 years since a team won 3 in a row. So it got me thinking, is the three-peat the biggest prize in football? Now, this isn't just going to be a comparison of what football was like in the 60s versus now to potentially enable the Packers to do what they did, but just for the sake of argument, the league only had 14 to 16 teams back then. The AFL was also a thing and had another 8 to 9 teams, but collectively, that's still less than today. Less teams to play against, less games to play per season, and technically a lesser chance of other teams getting in the way of players you really want to fill out your roster, in free agency, trades, or the draft. Which, by the way, was anywhere from 17 to 20 rounds long, so teams theoretically had way more chances to hit on players out of college that could become franchise pieces. The salary cap also wasn't introduced until 1994, so back then, if you had the payroll to keep more good players on your team, that was a viable championship strategy. Until the introduction of the billionaire socialist utopia that is the salary cap. But these days, there's more teams, more competition, and more parity, meaning it's all the more difficult now to dominate the league for 3 seasons in a row. And why it's all the more impressive, we still continue to have dynasties in spite of that. Let's start with winning just 1 chip. That's hard enough, and there's no checklist for how to do it. The way a team wins 1 year may not be at all similar to how a team wins the next year. Even if you have objectively the best team in the league one season, that only matters for your peace of mind. You could have a team of killers at the top of several stats categories by a country mile, and that doesn't guarantee jack. The last 10 years alone have Super Bowl winners that were behind the 8 ball in some of those categories. Denver won with an aging sheriff splitting time with Brock Osweiler, but thank God we had the no-fly zone. The Rams were mid at best in points allowed in 2021, but Stafford went nuclear in his first season in SoCal. KC at the start of that three-peat attempt, Pat was great, but the defense let more points slip than the Jets and the Saints that year. You can win a championship without having the best team on the field. You can't just say, we're going to be top 3 in rush yards, passing touchdowns, and points allowed on defense, and if we do all that, that's it, we'll win this year. That guarantees you nothing. If it did, Baltimore should have won in 2019.
Direct snap, Henry, jump pass!
Winning 1 Super Bowl is already one of the hardest achievements in sports. You need a stacked lineup, a good if not elite quarterback, a coaching staff that can scheme through a whole season with positive results, black magic to ward off the worst of the injury bug, training and conditioning to endure gladiatorial combat, sometimes with weather debuffs, and at least 9 other teams in your conference to be worse than you. And that's just to make it to playoffs, where you have to be perfect in every game you play in do or die, no margin for error boss fights, with no second chances if you fail once. If you do all of that, you beat the game, and that's already impressive as hell. But you heard how much of what you need is chance, right? You can sign and draft the players you think are right for your team, but what if they don't meet expectations? You can have a great quarterback, but what if he has an off year? You could get torn to shreds by injury and not have the depth to survive the postseason. That's just part of the game. You could have the best roster on paper and then drop your first playoff game, because we don't do best of sevens here. You could play bad in the cold. You could play bad in a dome, when historically you're fantastic in domes. You could even have a good, hell, an elite season in some metrics, get a winning record, and still miss the playoffs because not enough other teams were worse than you. Chance is baked into every level of competition everywhere, and it's not distributed to everyone equally. But if you're trying to win a championship and you've got the tools to do so, chance just becomes another roadblock you have to hurdle. Winning your division isn't a guarantee of anything. First seed isn't a guarantee. Final regular season record doesn't matter so long as you make the bracket and win out. That's the whole goal. Passing title, sack ranking, number of Uncrustables eaten per season, nothing else matters except making the postseason and then winning every game from there. And if you can pull that off, you've already accomplished one of the most difficult things in sports. Doing that 2 years in a row is fucking crazy. There are consistencies for teams that win back-to-back. Things like great quarterback, great head coach, great defense. Mahomes, Andy Reid, the Steve Spagnuolo defenses. John Elway, Mike Shanahan, the late 90s Broncos defenses. Terry Bradshaw, Chuck Noll, the Steel Curtain. Twice. You get the idea. Safe to say, you need those elements to be great, if not elite, if you want to win 2 in a row. But now it gets way more complicated. Not only do you have to mimic a similar performance to what worked the season prior, you have to make sure you didn't botch it before last year even started. There was no chance the Rams were going to repeat in 22 with the fuck them pick strat. And they didn't, because they couldn't reload. They were all in the previous year, and it worked, but the best they've done since is 10-7 with 1 playoff win. That doesn't cut it for a back-to-back attempt. And yeah, Howie gets a lot of credit now, and maybe in 2 years we'll be calling him one of the best to ever do it, but you have to set a roster up to win more than just 1 year down the line. New England in 2003 let captain and Pro Bowler Lawyer Malloy go right before the season began, but won 14 games, rotating 42 players into the lineup because of injury, won Super Bowl 38, then kept most of that roster together, signed Corey Dillon, and won it again the next year. Also winning 14 games. You might have to make hard moves, but you have to make the right moves if you want sustained success as a front office. And if you're trying to win 2 in a row, you might not know if you made the right moves until you see that second Lombardi. Super Bowl teams get gutted every year, but that's par for the course, and we've already established you don't need the best team, you need the right team. Twice. There's a reason back-to-back titles has only happened 3 times since the introduction of the salary cap. So you need the right team, the right GM, and maybe a willingness from star players to take more team-friendly deals so you can spread the money around. That can be down to GM negotiations, sure, but we can't overlook having a winning or team-first culture to inspire players to be that selfless and leave some money on the table. And unless the amount of money Cincy spent on their big 3 this offseason wins them a few rings, you can usually tell who has that kind of culture and who doesn't. So that might be another thing you need if you want to win 2 in a row. But if you can master this formula twice under the umbrella of a front office who can keep you stocked and in the best position to win, you might join the 2-time club that very few teams have membership cards for. Maybe even be regarded as one of the best teams ever. But you're not trying to be one of the best. We just saw a team fumble at the finish line on this one. Literally. And I took great pleasure in it, but that's a different story. There's even more factors to take into account once you hit year 3. Everything from those last 2 runs still applies here, but now you have to think about how much longer your seasons are, and potentially being more susceptible to failure.
The fact that we keep going to these AFC championships and these Super Bowls, that's a lot of wear and tear on your body. And it's a lot of time spent in the building. It can make you better, and it can drive you crazy at the same time. And right now, it's one of those things where it was kind of driving me crazy this year.
He has a point, and it goes further. If you win a chip, your season was extended by 3 games, if not 4. Losing a Super Bowl has the same effect. If you win 2 in a row, it has double the effect. Doing it for 3 means you could play up to 12 additional games, and that doesn't account for all the years you made the playoffs beforehand and failed. KC's played more than an entire regular season's worth of playoff games in the last 6 years. They won 3 rings. Buffalo's played almost another full season in that same time span, with nothing to show for it. More games means more combat, more exertion, more stress, less recuperation. It can drive you crazy. It's an endurance game not many people have had to play before, and maybe we're starting to see the limits of human capabilities when they try to be that dominant for that long. Sure, it's possible to win 3 Super Bowls as the number 1 seed, having played no playoff games in previous seasons. That would only mean you played 9 extra. That's not too bad. It's never even happened with 2. Why do you think it would ever happen with 3? Plus, you gotta win every playoff game for 3 straight seasons. You could have a great year overall, and then just have an off day. Maybe even on the big day. All it takes is getting out-schemed or outplayed once, and the entire achievement resets to 0. The skill, the luck, the effort, the big moments, the momentum, the storylines, the investment. For 3 years. All to lose to Cooper DeJean in his rookie season. The number of things that have to go right is insane. I definitely didn't cover all of them here, but that's because there's so many. The planets have to align in the exact right way, and they almost did last year, but didn't. Philly had the perfect game plan. New England got slammed with injuries. Elway retired and TD got hurt within 5 months of each other. Jerry Jones, the Montana tackle, the Steel Curtains collapse, and Oakland's revenge. Miami played 3 straight Super Bowls in a row in the 70s, but won the back 2 and not the first one, so they don't count as a three-peat try. There's always at least one thing that ruins a run, even at the very last hurdle, because there's so many things that have to go right. And not all of them are things you can control. That's why, if the planets do ever align, we'll be faced with the magnitude of an achievement that hasn't been accomplished for 60 years. And that's ultimately the main reason. To win just 1 Super Bowl is already incredible. To win 2 puts you on par with legends. To win 3 evens you up with the guy whose name's on the trophy. That alone explains why the three-peat is the biggest prize in football. And I don't just mean the NFL. Bama in the Nick Saban era didn't win 3 in a row. And don't get me started on turnover for college teams. Like, winning 3 straight national titles might just be more impressive than winning 3 Super Bowls. UConn's proven you can three-peat in collegiate. Actually, you can four-peat. But basketball needs way less players, and in turn, less superstars, so technically, it's easier to pull off. You've also got more leeway to mess up in the postseason with sports that use series in the playoffs, and all of them have had three-peats before, even if baseball just lets you pay to win. Football needs lots of high-skill players healthy and active for a long time, battering themselves against other armored humans in a sea of competition with good coaches, good management, and a massive dose of luck to accomplish something no team has done since LBJ was president. I mean the other LBJ. But if you can put the right group of men together, get them ready for war, survive 3 regular seasons, and win all the way through February, prove you are the kings of the game for multiple years in a row in a post-salary cap NFL landscape, and do what no team has done in 60 years, then you, my friend, can achieve a three-peat. The biggest prize in football.